in that year. And so, Nebraska last year was able to make a bowl game. I think it was the first bowl game in 9 years, and obviously got a lot of momentum heading into the off season and for this first game. Interesting game, being a neutral site at Arrowhead Stadium. Obviously, going to be a great atmosphere, and we're excited about playing somebody. I think when you start out the first game and you've been practicing against each other for this long, we're ready to see a different color jersey, and although it'll be the same color probably jersey that we're used to, and but play against somebody else, and and also a really good team, and that's the thing that I think. Anytime you're opening up the season with a team like Nebraska, a team on the verge of being a top 25 team, you got to bring your best game, and you certainly everybody's got to be on the attitude of mid-season form when you're playing this game. So I think coming out of camp, we're healthy, as healthy as probably maybe we've ever been coming out of camp. I think Aaron Himmler and Coach Nico, our strength, I think they did a great job this summer and then headed into camp of being very intentional about, with our guys and their health, and then how we set practice schedules throughout camp in order to get our guys to this point. And, we're heading this game with pretty much everybody that we wanted to be heading this game with. And I think, I just owe those guys a lot for what they did downstairs, getting these guys ready to go. But with that, I'll open up to any questions.
How much of a challenge is week one compared to the past where transfer portal and, evolving rosters and not really knowing – Nebraska does have quite a bit returning, but how much is it, difficult for a coaching staff to navigate what you're going to see in week one?
Yeah, I think it's certainly very difficult, and, hence why we didn't even do a preseason voting, ranking order in the Big 12. Every team has got so many new faces, probably on average, I would say, low 20s per every team in the country. Obviously, some are in the mid 40s, but a lot of people are going to be around that 20 mark. And I think, and then also when you open up a season against a team that made some changes at coordinator, we have a new special teams coordinator. The defensive coordinator was there, but he wasn't calling the defense. And Dana Holgerson was there. He called the last part of the season. So, so there's a lot of things that are some unknowns as you head into the game. And then you talk about Nebraska. I think 10 starters return at Nebraska. So, that's a lot of – half their lineup is new starters. And so, yeah, there's a lot of newness when this is first part of the game. And so I think one thing that you do early in the game, I think probably for both sides, is you got to get a feel for what they're doing, on all three phases. How are they doing things? And then we have to make adjustments off of that. So that'll be critical once we get into this game.
You may have heard about Matt Rule in the third year and all that. The third year is pretty important here, though. What is this something you had pinpointed? New facility, year three, better players?
Yeah, I think for us, we're all about building a program. Obviously, we've been moving up in the trajectory. When you think first year, second year, hopefully this year is better, and it should be. We have a better team. And I think anytime that you're taking over a program, that you want to be able to do that. You want to increase the win total. You want to increase the quality of players that you're bringing in. Obviously, it takes a while to get your chemistry and, your culture set within a program. Things that don't just happen overnight. And so, yeah, this is a big year for us, obviously. And, college football is competitive as ever right now. And for us, opening up against a team like Nebraska is great for our team. And it helps us to know where we're at as we get ready the next 2 weeks to get ready for Big 12 play. So, it's going to be a year where you got to be ready to go at every single week with the teams we're playing, because of you just don't know what each team is going to have. Like in this Big 12 conference, we know how competitive it'll be, but this is a great gauge here to start the season out with Nebraska.
Jim, then Marshall.
Coach Rule seemed to go out of his way in his press conference this week to say that he knew that your receiver room is much improved, but he was struggling. I'm not sure that's the term he used, but having trouble finding those guys. And we know that's probably not true, but at the same time, is there a position group for them that you feel that you got a really good handle on, or is there one maybe that you would like to know a little bit more about?
Well, I think for them on defense, their secondary is where their starters are back. And so as we watch Nebraska film, you can see those guys play and, see how good they are, and they're really good players. And I think two of them were named captains in the secondary this past week. And But up front for them, it's some new players, like, D-line wise, so several other guys from last year are not playing this year. So there's going to be some guys that maybe we're not as familiar with that'll be up front. So we really don't know much about them. And, I think offensively they were able to bring in some transfers, particularly at receiver. You can go back and watch them at their previous school because those guys were some good players. But what are they going to do in this school? Like, what are they going to do in this scheme, and how are they going to be utilized? That remains to be seen, obviously, and that's why I think you don't truly know until you get in these games and start figuring out, how are they going to try to use them and what roles are they going to be at. I do know they're talented. I do know they can run. They have size. They're going to be a physical team. I think, anytime you've heard Coach Rule talk about, he wants his teams to play physical, try to be a bully, those type things. I mean, that's the kind of game this will be. It'll be a physical contest. There's going to be a lot of that going on out there, and we have to match that physicality.
People are almost unanimously picking Nebraska to win this game. There's not been a lot of respect for Cincinnati when it comes to what this game could turn out to be. Are you using any of that outside noise as motivation for your guys?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to take any kind of motivation you can get, and our guys know that not many people will pick us to win this game. They don't really know what we have inside this building. Only we do from practicing against each other and how we've been able to train all summer and to come into camp. So, our guys have a lot to prove, and I think about, and even guys that have played a lot. I mean, I think like a guy like Dante Corleone. I mean, he's got a lot to prove this year, and a guy like Joe Rory came back for a reason, so we have a lot of guys in this building, whether they're returning starters or guys that just got here. They have a lot to prove, and I think, what better way to prove it against a team that maybe not many people are picking us against. I mean, so there's definitely motivation.
Scott, first 2 seasons here haven't lived up to the standards that so many great Bearcats teams have set over the last 20 years. Do you guys feel like you winning this game Thursday could propel you to the season that you want to have and get back to playing for a Big 12 championship?
Well, I mean, I certainly think it would help, if you win this game. It's obviously it's the first game, of a 12. It's a team that's very recognizable nationally. A team which everybody thinks is going to have a great year this year. So yeah, absolutely. To go get a W in this game, it certainly can set you up when you head into week 2 for sure. It's not a make or break game though. I think is when we get to the Big 12 play, we want to be very competitive and go to Dallas, and that's been our team's goal. And so no matter what happens this week, we're going to get ready for week 2. Obviously, we're going to put everything we can into this week to go out here and get a big win, because this obviously would be huge for us and our team and our confidence as we move forward for sure.
Kind of the consensus last year seemed like Royola was really good against zone when people adjusted to man. That's when he struggled in the latter half of the season. With such a young talent like that, do you kind of want to default to game planning like he's going to take the next step and grow in his game, or do you kind of just rely on last year's film?
No, I think he certainly is going to grow. He's a freshman, and so in year 2, he's going to be a lot more comfortable just in college football, the surroundings and all the things that come with it. He doesn't have to adjust going to class and going to practice, all those things. He's done that for a year now, and with Holgerson being there the last month of the season and really getting a feel for him, I think certainly they'll build off of that as they head into the offseason and have a great plan, as they head to the first game. So I would anticipate him being a lot more comfortable in his surroundings and his environment. They certainly tried to go out and upgrade some receivers to bring in some top talent out there. That obviously is a quarterback's best friend if he's got some dudes to throw to out there. So I would anticipate him being a really, really good quarterback, obviously, as we play this year. I mean, was he number 1 quarterback in the country maybe coming out. I mean, so he certainly has all the talent in the world, can make all the throws. It'll be a great challenge for our defense, try to confuse him a little bit, try to make him force the ball in some places. But we have to be ready to go for anything that they may try to do and put in front of us.
I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but the New Heights podcast going up against the Bussin' with the Boys podcast. Will Compton went to Nebraska, obviously the Kelsey brothers here. Have you heard anything about this or what they have on the line or anything like that?
No, I haven't. I mean, I heard they've been going back and forth a little bit about this game, and I don't know what's on the line either way. Obviously, we're pulling for the Kelsey brothers on this one, and the Bearcats for sure. So there's going to be bragging rights for anybody in this, and but I think more importantly for us is for us to go out and play very well, and to put a great product out there. The guys go out and make plays in all three phases. Play a clean game. That's one of our goals, is to try to play a clean game. We've talked about discipline all in the offseason. And as I looked at college football last weekend, there was a lot of sloppiness that went on last weekend. And really, the Big 12 with those two, Iowa State and Kansas State, two really good teams in the first half, was very sloppy. So, you see some of that in the first week. Hopefully we can limit that. I think obviously the team that limits that the most will have the best chance to win.
What are your thoughts overall on just around college football opening up on a neutral site?
Obviously, if it's a home game, I'd rather be playing here at Nippert for sure, in your own your stadium with your people. It's interesting. I've been a part of games before, where you play neutral sites. Hopefully there's not an advantage for the opponent when you're playing in a neutral site. They're 3.5 hours away. We're probably 8 hours away, so they are a little bit closer, and their fans are closer to get to that stadium. So I think the surroundings are new. We're both going to be in new hotels. We're both going to be, having to deal with that. So in that respect, it's the same. There's no advantage either way, I don't think. So really it comes down to, all right, who's going to come out, who's the best game plan, who's going to execute, who's going to play the cleanest game will get this win.
Neil and Scott. Coach, you mentioned Nebraska's upgraded wide receiver room. A guy who stands out when you watch Nebraska on film, a guy, Dane Key from Kentucky. What stands out to you about Dane Key and what he's able to do to really kind of stretch the field there for Nebraska? A
really good player. I remember him in high school, when he came out. And he's number one, he's got great size. And that presents a problem if you're that big. He's played a lot of college football in the SEC. So, he's not going to be fazed by anything our DBs will try to do to him. And he can run, so he's got a really good combination of size, speed, playmaking ability, and experience. So obviously I think he'll be one of the top receivers that will play this year. He'll be obviously a great challenge for us and our DBs to know where he's at, to try to be physical with him. I'm sure he's going to get some catches, but now we got to go and get him down. You get him down on the ground, and one of the big challenges is making sure we're keeping everything in front and not letting guys get behind us. I think that's obviously a very important for us, because I know, Raul is capable of making the throws down the field and hitting those guys if they get open.
You were a quarterback. It's a quarterback-heavy league. When I'm watching people talk about Big 12 quarterbacks, a lot of times Brendan Sorsby's not mentioned. Is that wrong? Is he being underrated?
Yeah, that's up to them and the people that are looking at film, and it's up to our offense and Brendan to go out and play well so that he will be mentioned. I think so much of it came down to, if it was after the seventh game last year, when we're sitting there at 5-2, he's probably going to be mentioned, the last half of the season, the 5 games, we did not play as well. So, I think it's up to him and our offense to go out and play well, and for him to make the correct decisions and the receivers to make plays for him. And if that happens, then people will start mentioning him. He'll be mentioned with some of the top quarterbacks in our conference, and I think if that's the case, then he's going to be mentioned as one of the top quarterbacks throughout the country.
Scott, how much pressure do you personally feel going into year 3 to get this program back to playing for conference championships and college football playoff berths?
I feel pressure every single year to go out and put a product on the field that we can go out and win games. So, to me, I put a ton of pressure on myself and our program to go out and play well and get our guys ready to play. We've sensed it throughout the camp that the sense of urgency's been there, knowing that we're playing a team like Nebraska to come out and play as hard and as clean as best we can, and that's what we have to do. If we do that, then we'll go out and we'll see what happens at the end of the game. But it's the same amount of pressure for me.
After the Iowa State-Kansas State game, do you look at that and say the Big 12 is even more open than you might have thought before? Or can you not take much away from a game that's played in
it's hard. They went all the way to Ireland and played an early, first kick against – that's a rivalry game for them. That's, there's so much riding on that. 2 of the better teams in our conference. Until you start playing a bunch of games and we start seeing how guys are and how they match up, then I don't think you can put a whole lot of stock in it. They're going to be 2 of the best teams in our league. We know that. They have a lot of experience, 2 great experienced quarterbacks coming back. And, so I think that was a tough game to start the season off with. And now Matt Campbell and the Iowa State feel a lot better about themselves having, won that game. And Kansas State feels like, man, they're going to have to play a little bit better and harder as we go through the Big 12 season. But we think in the Big 12 that it's going to be very competitive. There's going to be a lot of teams in it. One loss will not hurt you in the Big 12. Two may not hurt you in the Big 12. You still may be able to get there. So it's going to be extremely competitive, and who can play the best ball, stay the healthiest throughout down the stretch will be the difference.
I feel like one of the bigger competitions this fall was the running backs, obviously, to the Doak Walker watch list. Do you have any more clarity on if it's going to be a 50-50 split? Is it going to be who the hot hand you ride throughout the game?
No, I think probably more of that. We'll play all our guys probably at least a series, and then we'll see who's got the hot hand, who's seeing it the best, who's got a great feel for it, who's making plays, and they'll be the ones that play the most. It's been very competitive. All the guys have made plays in camp, and they've broken tackles, they've caught the ball in the backfield, they've protected well. So, that'll be a great battle to see who's going to be getting the most carries and who's going to get the most playing time.
You talked about the team coming out of camp healthy, and you talked about Aaron and Nico and their importance. How much do you maybe think this new facility and the new training facility specifically was able to help you guys maybe stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I think it's a huge piece of our program, obviously now with the recovery aspects that we have in this building, so easily accessible. The cafeteria that's right here that, man, is putting out some great food for our guys all camp long, and it certainly has to help us. And I think, Aaron and Coach Nico do a great job of being in tune about each one of the guys. How much recovery do they need? And when we force the recovery on the guys, it is readily available for our guys, and they're taking advantage of it too. And I think that's a huge piece in it as well. And I certainly think it's had a huge impact on our team already.
Does it seem like a case just guys aren't as dinged up day to day? It hasn't felt like there's been a lot of orange jerseys.
No, there hasn't been. I think with the practice schedule that we've set, when we've had days off, when we've dialed the practice back, when we've had to push practice harder and tackle a lot more, we've done a really good job, I think, of really spreading that out, allowing guys to recover and not have that nagging injury. And then, now it takes it over the top to where they're going to miss time. So I think our guys have done a really good job with that, on top of being able to get the recovery within the building. I think those two combined has really helped.
Playing on grass make any difference at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's probably an opinion based when you talk to a certain player. I think it matters a whole lot unless the grass is slick and you can't stand up. Like the other night, that game was tough. I mean, it was raining. I was thinking, Kansas, maybe slipping all over the place. That matters. Obviously, if you're on turf, I think like you get much better grip. If it's not going to rain Thursday night, which I don't know if it is or not, but if it's not, hopefully it's not, then you would think early in the season, grass, it should be pretty good. It should be it shouldn't be a factor.